This is a podcast by Wellhouse Church, where we talk about what it's like to be a Christian Monday through Saturday, to live as a person of faith in a culture against faith. So let's talk about process addictions.
Do it.
A very loaded topic that we might actually end up splitting into 2 weeks. We'll see how far we get into it. But how was your day?
Had a good day.
It's good.
Yeah, had a good day.
You want to walk through it?
Well, I got up.
So good.
Yeah, it was good. Got up, went about my work day, went and spent some time at my second job.
Day job.
Yeah. I mean, I spend more hours doing Wellhouse stuff than that one, so it doesn't feel right calling that one my day job.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But I do predominantly work there during the day. But yeah, so I went and spent some time there, had a meeting for Wellhouse, which I was glad to have and get some of that stuff worked out. Went back, got a lot done, wasn't too stressed, came home, had a great dinner, recording content.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great day.
It was a good day.
Dinner was good, too.
Dinner was good. So how was your day?
My day, I'll say my day was hard. It wasn't necessarily busy. It wasn't, it was emotionally difficult. I started my field placement today.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go, for confidentiality reasons, I can't go into too deep.
Right.
But I will say, I read a lot of things today that honestly make you question your worldview.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, that by the end of it, I was sort of desensitized.
Yeah. Get that.
Because it was one harrowing story after another.
I get that.
And so while it breaks my heart,
Yeah, I
it's
get it.
the field that you and I have both chosen, honestly.
I know. Well, and I even get it at my other one. We're going to have a law firm.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, and we do CPS stuff too. I get harrowing story after harrowing story, so I get it. It is hard to navigate. Desensitize is the correct word, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it does happen. It's almost a way of survival.
Yeah, I felt like I started the day with this super high level of empathy. The notes I were taking were very detailed, and I felt like a natural, like, what can we do?
Yeah.
And then by the end, I was like, yep, I see a trend here.
Yeah.
And I just started putting pieces together between client after client after client that now I'm just like, you know,
I get it.
it's just, it's still sad. It still breaks my heart. And I still want to do everything in my power to help. But the world we live in, just very honestly, is screwed up.
Yeah.
And the situations that our clients are in are just, breaks my heart.
Yep.
So I had a hard day.
Yeah.
But then I came over here, had dinner, recording content, and it has turned into a much better day.
Good. Good.
So let's get into this. So, you clearly have some level of knowledge about process addictions.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to define it, how would you? I'm curious.
So I would classify it in some kind of way that it's still an addiction and that someone is chasing a dopamine high, or a dopamine release from a high that they got in a certain experience through a process, through doing something. So it's not a substance that they're chasing for their dopamine release. It's something that they can do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. To kind of put an actual definition to it, the American Addiction Center just kind of calls it a compulsive nature of behavior.
Okay.
And then it's further explained as someone chasing a sort of high from a behavior that they found rewarding.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But it goes a little bit further. That high that you're chasing can sometimes lead to feelings of guilt and remorse.
Oh, yes, yes.
After feeling overwhelmed by the consequences. And
that's the cycle of addiction, though, too.
Oh, just in general?
Yeah.
In general, for sure. But it comes out differently in process addictions.
Okay.
Right? Because it is a thing that in and of itself is not inherently bad, right? Or doesn't carry a sort of bad quality to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But without intervention, like all addictions, people are unable to stop.
Yeah.
And they will keep indulging in this thing, whatever this thing is. And so the different types of process addictions, there are several, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is going off of the data that I found. And I do want that to be very clear. This is not an exhaustive list. You can almost have a process addiction to basically anything.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, that's one of the things that I was kind of thinking is I think you probably can have a process addiction to just about anything, as evidenced by, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you.
I think I'm okay. As evidenced by, we don't call them addicts.
No.
But isn't that what an adrenaline junkie is?
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can have process addiction to just about anything.
Just about anything. We don't talk about them in that way, but yeah, I think that's probably true. It's a large category for addiction.
Yeah.
Probably the one that is most talked about that you don't even probably realize is a process addiction is sex and love addictions.
Yep.
You probably didn't even realize that you could be addicted to love. But guess what? You can.
Yeah. It's quite a big deal, actually.
The reason we call it sex and love addictions, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit too, or maybe next week, depending on how far we get into this episode. The reason we combine sex and love addictions is because they have to be together.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really have one without the other in most cases.
Well, and the connector there is attachment disorders.
Right. But from the National Council on Sex Addiction Compulsivity, 6 to 8%, roughly 18 to 24 million people struggle with SLA.
I'm surprised it's not higher than that.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think it's
I'm sure it is higher.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is higher. Guarantee you it is. But because sex, as it should be, is a lot less stigmatized than it used to be.
Yep.
And people don't realize that love addictions are a real thing.
Yeah.
Then you can also have a shopping addiction. I'm sure y'all have heard of that.
Yep.
Just like on jokes and TV shows, right? So a lot of my data from or about process addictions is coming from Recovery Village. They are an agency focused on recovery from addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And they have compiled a lot of data about process addictions and put it on their website. So a lot of what I've found, I will be citing them, but it comes from a variety of different studies. So
Okay.
I just want to throw that out there. And about 5% of Americans have a shopping addiction. That's about 16.4 million.
Wow.
5%.
But you said 6 to 8% for
6 to 8 for SLA. And then 5% for shopping.
So we're at a conservative 12% of the population already at some kind of process addiction.
Yeah.
All right.
Gambling. National Center for Responsible Gambling. And this is a compiled study of in between from the years of 99 to 2009. So about 10 years worth of data.
Okay.
It's a little bit outdated. About 1% of the population has a gambling addiction.
Okay, so 13%.
Yep, 13% in total. For gambling, it's about 3.25 million.
Okay.
Gaming addictions. Now, this is one that I was not prepared to see.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be pretty high.
So Recovery Village says that about 1 to 10%.
Wait, 1 to 10?
Yeah, they give a large margin there.
Yeah, that's a
Because
massive margin.
That's why I'm saying, or this is why I'm about to say what I'm about to say. This is a relatively new idea.
Yeah.
There needs to be so much more research done on this. But approximately about 150 million U.S. Americans play video games.
Yeah, that's half or almost half.
About half, yeah.
Yeah, it was 330 million.
And so you take 10% of that, you get 15 million. And then, you get 1% of that, and that's, what is that, 1.5? Right?
Yeah.
And so that's still a large portion of people, no matter where those numbers actually lie.
Yeah.
That's a huge number of people that have become addicted to games through a process addiction.
Yeah.
Chasing that dopamine. Food.
Oh, I bet this one's underdiagnosed.
I'm sure it is. So this data came from a resource of American Addiction Center. And 5% of Americans, again, roughly 16.4%, have a food addiction. So
16.4 million.
16.4 million.
Wow.
People with an exercise addiction coming from Recovery Village again. 3%, 9 and about 3/4.
Wow.
Million. So a large, just in these categories,
26%.
26%.
And that's a conservative number.
That's a conservative number. Just in these categories, that's not talking about work addictions. That's not talking about money addictions.
Yeah.
Which are two separate things.
Yeah.
And both of those things are also separated from shopping addictions and gambling addictions. Yeah. That number is going to be considerably higher.
Yeah.
I will go on record saying this, and I'm stepping out on a big limb here. Just about everyone has a process addiction in some way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I have one.
I have one too.
I have one for sure. Mine's work and money. Even had a therapist tell me, yep, I think you have a work and money addiction.
We're going to talk about mine in a little bit. So, requirements for process addiction. Woo. That was right on the edge.
Living on the edge.
You keep engaging in the behavior after you start experiencing the physical and mental consequences.
Okay.
You understand the mental and physical consequences, and you keep engaging in the behavior.
Yep.
It creates difficulties in relationships.
Yep.
Work and money creates family problems, right? Any process addiction would create family problems, I would think, in some way, shape, or form.
I think any process addiction creates any level of problems.
Yeah, in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And you experience continued negative consequences as a result of your continued engagement in the behavior.
Yeah.
So when I was reading these, you know what I thought about?
What?
Lillian Marshall with Lily's shopping addiction.
Oh, yeah, she clearly has one.
She clearly had a shopping addiction, racked up a ton of debt.
A ton of debt.
And they tried to get an apartment, and the apartment complex ran Lily's credit. No, it was the bank they were getting a loan from.
They were getting a loan.
The bank ran her credit and said, yeah, no.
Not happening.
Not happening, bro.
You have what do they say? It's in moments like that where they use the term to talk about a large sum of money, crap loads.
They didn't in this
crap
episode.
loads.
They did in that episode.
Okay.
But no, they had a ton of debt.
Yeah, she had a ton of credit card debt from her shopping. They do this whole flashback deal where she's like, I just got in this huge fight with my mother. She buys a pair of boots. So this happened. A kid spilled something on my shirt today, bought a pair of boots.
Yeah.
I just got a huge credit card bill, bought a pair of boots.
Yeah. Even though you are experiencing the continued negative consequences, you still engage in the behavior.
Yeah.
That's what reminded me whenever I've read that.
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of. And then you're still unable to stop despite the consequences.
Yeah.
You can experience the negative consequences all you want, but you can't stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
All of these things compound together into a process addiction. So co-occurring disorders when it comes to process addictions, again, coming from Recovery Village. Substance use disorders, which is understandable.
Yep.
Because if you have a process addiction or a substance use disorder, it means you have an addictive personality in general, which means it is much easier for you to get addicted to these dopamine highs.
For sure.
And whatever that looks like and whatever that means for you.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about this in relation to substance use disorders. And a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about cannabis use disorder and the DSM-5.
Yeah.
I did some more research on that today, separate from this, believe it or not. I did it more for my field placement. But the DSM-5 was published in 2013, I think. And in recent years, however many that has been, they have revised it.
Okay.
And made it look and sound and feel a little bit more like a process addiction. Process addictions are talked about in the DSM-5.
Okay.
It's just talked about as a large category.
Okay.
But they have reframed cannabis use disorder to look and feel more like a process addiction rather than a chemical addiction.
Got you.
But since it still involves a substance, I think they have still tried to separate them.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
No, it makes sense. I mean, the data just doesn't support it being the same kind of substance abuse
As
use disorder as like alcohol or meth or one of those.
like an opioid addiction.
Yeah. It like the scientific research just doesn't lend itself to.
And that's what they're trying to
like
fix. But at the same time, it still does involve a substance, which means it's a different kind of thing than a process addiction. Right. I guess so. I mean, but it's still a matter of becoming addicted to that level of dopamine.
Yeah.
Still chasing that dopamine high. So I remember I said that I needed to do some more research and fact check that.
Yeah.
That is me fact checking that.
Okay. Got it.
Another co-occurring disorder, which you will not be surprised of. You might not ever think it, but you won't be surprised. Obsessive compulsive disorder.
They're putting that as a process?
No, they're putting it as a co-occurring disorder.
Oh, got you. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, like logically it makes sense.
Yeah, that tracks.
Because if you think about it, you have this thing that you're chasing, and you have to have a certain way to get that thing that you're chasing.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So I know a lot of people are going to ask, and we're going to run long, but there's not enough left for us to split it up into 2 episodes. I know some people are going to ask, what causes a process addiction? And there are a number of different things. So genetic factors, societal and environmental factors can all influence. Yeah, essentially, we've talked about all this. It was one of those things that I was like, I don't really want to write all that down.
Got you.
So I just took a picture of it. So fundamentally, process addictions are addictions to things that aren't even necessarily bad, right? Fundamentally, like the things we talked about, sex, shopping, gambling, gaming, food, exercise, none of those things are inherently bad or wrong.
Right.
You might have a different opinion on the gambling thing, but that's you. Not everyone shares that opinion. But those things in and of themselves are not wrong.
Right.
And all of those things done correctly can be honoring to the Lord.
Yeah.
And in Colossians 3:17, we get this whole idea of do everything that you do for the glory of the Lord. Everything.
Yeah.
That means having sex in a committed relationship. That means shopping, right? Buying things for yourself to decorate your home that are honoring to the Lord. Means buying things for your church, for other people, right? Shopping can be a good thing. Gambling, I don't know how to make that a good thing. Like
Entertainment,
I guess.
if you're responsible with it.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, like, if you're responsible with it, that can't be, if God created us to enjoy things in the world and you're responsible with it, it doesn't harm families, family finances, and it's entertaining to you and it's a good time for you and your friends. I don't understand why that's not.
And if it's also something that you're good at, that you can point your talents towards God for.
Yeah.
Right? The same thing with the gaming thing.
Yep.
Right? Food. How many times have we had valuable, life-giving conversations over a dinner table?
Yeah, I think most of the time I sit down to have conversations at dinners, they're life-giving.
Yeah. And then exercise. Right? Taking care of your body, this thing that God has given you. Right? And then many other things, work, money, all these things can be honoring to the Lord.
Yeah.
But done incorrectly, you're filling something that I'm just going to call an unnecessary need.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes a thing that you need, but it's not a thing that you need to survive.
Yeah.
And so you're just meeting this need. And I know that sounds kind of judgmental and maybe like I'm stepping on your toes a little bit. And I'm telling you this coming from a place of someone with a process addiction. There was a time in my life where I felt like I really should have gone to SLA meetings. I carried this around with me for basically my entire life. You know, I didn't end up going to SLA meetings. I ended up going to therapy. But I had a sex and love addiction.
Yeah.
In some ways I still do.
Yeah.
Right. And I fight that day after day. And this is all coming from someone who has struggled with this dichotomy of this is a thing that is good, but I'm chasing it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I was seeking love, right? And I wasn't being fulfilled in that way.
Yeah.
And so I started fulfilling myself in that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it became a sex addiction after that.
Yep.
And so when you combine all these things together, seeking love is a really good thing.
Yeah.
But I took it too far, as with all process addictions.
What's a legitimate need met with an illegitimate end?
Yeah.
That's how it is with everything. I mean, SLA is a big deal. I'm pretty convinced that King Solomon.
Sex addict.
Yeah, let me pull it up. This is in 1 Kings chapter 11. And I don't think it's super helpful to kind of transpose these back onto biblical characters very often until it is. And I actually think this is one of the ones where it is helpful because it details it out and you get all the main points right here in this same text. This is 1 Kings 11, 1 through, I think, 11. King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the Israelites, "You shall not enter into marriage with them, neither shall they with you, for they will surely incline your heart to follow their gods." Solomon clung to these in love. Among his wives were 700 princesses, 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. For Solomon followed Astarte, the goddess of so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. So Solomon did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and did not completely follow the Lord as his father David had done. Then Solomon built a high place for Shamash, the abomination of Moab, and for Molech, all of these. He did the same for all his foreign wives who offered incense and sacrifice to their gods. He literally goes down this road for sex, abandoning all of what he's ever valued.
Yeah.
Pretty clear to me. He's got a
sex addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard thing, man.
Because that's the other thing. I noticed we didn't mention it, and this is not a closer look, so maybe our listeners don't know. Concubine's sex slave.
Oh, yeah.
Concubine's a really polite way of saying sex slave.
Yeah, essentially.
He had 300 of them, plus his 700 wives.
Yeah. It's a very, very hard thing. Process addictions in general, to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because you may not even realize that it's a problem.
Yep.
Because it's just a normal thing.
Yep.
Or it seems normal.
Yep.
It becomes a problem whenever it begins affecting your relationships, when it becomes a thing that is affecting your finances, your day-to-day life, your job, your school, your mental and physical health. You may not even realize these things are a problem, but let me tell you, listener, these things are killing you. And coming from somebody who had a pretty serious sex addiction, it's more under control now, or a sex and love addiction specifically. It was killing my relationships. But let me give you some hope. And I know this is going to sound really corny, and some of you Bible nerds out there are going to laugh at me. But you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, right? Fundamentally, that is the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I want to give the preface, like, I'm not here for the pray it away mentality.
Oh, absolutely not.
But
100%
I do think
not.
in Christ we are conquerors.
Yes.
So I definitely think that, like, yes, that is true, but don't skip therapy just because you can conquer all things through Christ.
It's a hard road. It is a hard road. But that road that you walk with Christ makes it much easier.